The Edmonton Oilers got absolutely mollywopped in Buffalo. I don't know about you. I don't feel good about this team.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Locked On Oilers. I am your host, Nick Zararis. This is my third season as a host here on the Locked On Podcast Network. This is my 10th season doing digital hockey content. I want to thank everyone that is making Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. Locked On Oilers is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network, Locked On Oilers, where we've got your team covered every single day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com, and you could win up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So on today's show, we are going to walk through that disaster. There's no other way to put it. That disaster of a game against the Buffalo Sabres on Monday night. We will start out by talking about, even though the Oilers lost this game 5-1, ultimately it was their offense that got them in this hole and why their offense continues to disappoint. In our second segment, we will pivot to talking about decision-making on an individual basis and within the context of a unit. And then in our final segment, we will talk about why, if the Oilers would like to be serious Stanley Cup contenders, they can't go on like this. Just point blank, they cannot. So to start out, there is no one way to play in the NHL. We have yet to reach optimum efficiency in our game the way some of the other professional sports leagues have. There's no three true outcomes like in baseball. There's no maximum efficiency offense the way there is in football. There's no maximum efficiency corner three offense the way there is in basketball. In hockey, there is enough variance between teams that there are still unique styles. Now, most teams are generally in overarching philosophies, which make up a majority of the teams, but there isn't a clear-cut, all you got to do is this. That's one of the beauties of hockey, and one of the things I really like about it, and funny enough, one of the things I really like about college football, lesser extent now because college football has become a lot more homogenous, but the differences in style by region, conference, that was a lot more present in the NHL, but it's still a thing. And what works for the Oilers might not work for the Sabres and vice versa, and every other permutation of the other 31 teams and the Edmonton Oilers. But right now, I can definitively tell you the Oilers offense is not working. Point number one, the Oilers were out high danger chanced in this game 14-5. Now, 74% of the high danger chances against, that's a lot. But think about it in the context of the Oilers' overarching offense. And what I mean by that, the Oilers were credited with 57 scoring chances in this game. And of those 57, just 5 were credited as being high danger chances. That in of itself tells you something with the way the Oilers are approaching the game is not working. When 0.09% of your scoring chances are considered high danger, those are the chances that are most likely to result in offense. And at 5-on-5 right now, the Oilers are effectively non-functional. This offense is entirely predicated right now upon rush offense. The one goal they scored tonight is a transition play. Draisaitl sets up Roslovic in transition, who whips home a wicked shot, a great shot, a goal scorer's goal. And you feel like, okay, the Oilers are on the board. We are in this hockey game. But because offense has been so difficult to come by, and hint, it's all interconnected and it's partially to the defense. And we'll talk about that more in our second segment as far as thought process, decision-making. But right now, you look at this team and I struggle to feel any discernible confidence in their ability to score. And this is the Oilers we're talking about here. If you had told me, yeah, the defense is bad, yeah, the goaltending's bad, okay, sure, I would have shrugged and said, that's kind of what I expected. But this is a team that is predicated on its best players dominating their minutes. And We'll talk a little bit about the McDavid and Draisaitl splits in our second segment and our third segment for that matter. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But sitting here in mid-November, this feels fundamentally different than each of the last two Octobers. Yes, the Oilers have gotten off to slow starts. Yes, the offense has struggled. Yes, the defense has struggled. Yes, the goaltending has struggled. But right now, everything simultaneously is struggling, and they're all bleeding over into each other. Case in point, the Oilers have played, coming into tonight, 1,222 minutes. Of those 1,222 minutes, the Oilers have either been tied or losing in 864 of those 1,220 minutes. 3/4 of the Oilers' minutes this year, they have been trailing or losing. That is such a difficult way to live. And when I say the offense impacts the defense and the goaltending, that's what I mean. Because if you are constantly trailing, if you are constantly in tie games, your margin for error in net and on defense becomes infinitesimally smaller. And if we're playing on the margins, one mistake sinks you. That is the problem right now. And that's why these games keep snowballing. The Oilers are sitting there at 1-1, 2-2, or 2-1. And at 2-1, you're in the game. Ample chance to make a comeback, even with how hard you're struggling to score. You limp to overtime, you pull a 3-on-3 or a shootout win out of your butt. The Oilers are 5-2 in goal splits in overtime this year. If you can get there, that'll work in the interim while you're trying to figure out your team. But the Oilers continuing to be in these rock fights where 2 goals feels almost impossible is unheard of for this group and this organization. I can't say I am at a loss because I see it happening in real time. Every night I put this team on the TV or on my iPad or my phone, or if I'm watching it at a bar or at someone's house. They fundamentally struggle at the link-up aspect of hockey. We're going to talk about that in our next segment as far as decision-making goes. But this team is designed to play one way. Without the transition offense that has become the calling card for McDavid, for Draisaitl, who are 2 of the best transition players in the entire league, this group does not have the facilities to get to offense enough to play the way they want. Not only are they not scoring enough, they're not getting to the offensive zone enough. They're not creating enough offense. They're not giving themselves enough chances to make offense. And all of this is tied together. They are struggling mightily in every phase of the game because they're all interconnected. And you can say, well, there's time, they get better as the game goes along, they're a slow starting team. All of that is great. You were out high danger chance 14-5 by the worst team in the Eastern Conference. The Sabres had basically a full more expected goal than you did in this game. And yeah, the game got out of hand. You got a power play goal against. You only lost 3-1 at 5-on-5. Then you saw in the empty netter and the power play goal against. But all of those little breakdowns start to accumulate. I don't think on a talent basis this team is this bad, but in terms of process, results, and I do think there's a conversation to be had whether or not the talent fits particularly well in terms of complementing each other. But right now, I'm going to come out and say it. The Oilers are a bad hockey team, and that is not minimizing the talent, but the results produced by this talent are that of a bad hockey team. There is ample time to turn that around. There are plenty of culprits. There are plenty of ways to fix this. But for right now, the Oilers got thumped by the worst team in the East. And this is a team in the Oilers that expects to be one of the last 2 or 3 teams standing when all's said and done when we get to May and June. We are going to take our first break on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, we're going to talk about why decision-making is becoming such a crucial storyline for the Oilers this year. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, or if you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The Thunder are plus 175 to win the title. Jokic and the Nuggets plus 650. Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs plus 750. My Knicks 13-1. The Rockets and KD 14-1. LeBron returning for the Lakers sitting at 14-1 to take home the title. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Oilers your first listen of the day, and thank you so much for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So, my friends, we're doing our one good thing, at least one good thing from every game in our 82-game season, because you got to find something to take solace in. And Jack Roslovic's been sick. 7 goals in 5 weeks on the team. He has fit extremely well playing alongside Leon Draisaitl. He is getting power play one time in the absence of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who reportedly probably won't be back until early December, which is a bit longer than we had expected. Definitely a cause for concern for a team that desperately needs to start catching some breaks. But as the old adage goes, good teams make their own breaks. And right now, the Oilers can't make them. And I do think some of that is process. I do think some of that is philosophy. Some of that is ideology. This is a team struggling mightily to get anything to go its way. And I don't think the Oilers are a mentally weak team. I think the Oilers are a team with some baggage. I think anytime you go to a Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row and lose, I think there's weight on that. I think guys watch teammates who have been here for several years go out the door over the last 2 years, and 6 of the 12 forward spots from last year's Cup final team be replaced in very short period of time. I think that weighs on guys, and it is not an excuse. We talked about this in depth on yesterday's show, the idea that energy, intensity, those need to show up every game. That can't just be 1 or 2 guys getting in a fight. That can't just be your star player scoring goals. You need to have a wholesale commitment from guy number 1 to guy number 18 to playing a certain way, executing a certain style, and living up to a certain idea. Because right now, the Oilers are so disjointed. They are struggling so mightily to produce offense and play quality defense and produce good goaltending that everybody has this air of concern about them. And you've heard the metaphor black cloud over their head. That's where we're at, folks. This is a hockey team that is simply waiting for the next thing to go wrong to them. And it starts with the most simple of plays, the breakout/zone exit. Against a team like Buffalo, that is fast. And don't get me wrong, Buffalo is an extremely fast hockey team. They've got a really good nucleus of young, strong skaters who are able to forecheck aggressively. Their defense does a great job of tilting the ice, of getting them into transition faster, and really plays to the team's strengths when it works. And granted, Buffalo's record shows you it does not work that often. I am quite skeptical of Lindy Ruff getting yet another turn as an NHL head coach after the last 10 years between his time in Dallas, assistant with the Rangers, head coach in New Jersey. But he outworked them. The Sabres looked like a good hockey team tonight, and the Oilers were behind almost from the get-go. And it's not just about the scoreboard. It is about the flow of the game. It is about control of the game. When you are persistently stuck in your own end of the ice and the other team is getting to those 50-50 pucks and winning. And it's funny, I wrote it down in my notes here, and I want to read exactly what I had said. I wrote it 5 minutes into the game that, where is it? Sabres look fast, cancel icings. Sabres win, lose pucks. That was 5 minutes into the game. The Sabres canceled out 2 icings, and they won a couple 50-50 pucks just by being faster to lose pucks. And that stuck with me. And that theme continued to build throughout the game. And then you got to that pocket where the Sabres scored 2 goals about 4.5, 5 minutes apart. And it felt like the entire 5 minutes was spent in the Oilers' end, with Buffalo ultimately potting a pair of goals. When you are struggling the way the Oilers are, There needs to be a more cohesive understanding, top to bottom, of what everybody needs to do. I don't know how many times I've come on this show over the last 2 weeks, my everydayers can attest, and said the breakouts need to be cleaner. You can't just be flinging pucks up the ice. You can't just be sending pucks up the middle of the ice and hoping they get out of the zone. Too many hope passes lead you to ruin. And when you are constantly chasing the game the way the Oilers are right now, it feels like the game is playing on tilted ice. That no matter what you do, trying to go the other way, it's going to come back down. The Sabres are going to get another 30 to 40 seconds. They're going to tire you out. So even if you do manage to gain the puck, clear the zone, you got to send it down and go for a change. While you're going for a change, Buffalo's coming back the other way. And that was sequence after sequence after sequence. Decision-making is a multifaceted component to the game because it's defense, it's the neutral zone, it's the offensive zone. In the offensive zone, it's even more straightforward. If you are a defenseman and you have a clear line of sight to the net, 40 feet away, no traffic, no opportunities for rebounds, no opportunities for deflections, don't take the shot. If you're Connor, if you're Leon, and the Sabres are collapsing down on the net and they have sticks in the lanes, don't try and send that pass across the seam because it's not going to get through. It's just going to go back the other way. And frustration is real. Stubbornness is real. When it is going the way it is for the Oilers, I understand why guys are repeating the same mistakes over and over again because they are trying. When teams fall into traps like this, it is not for a lack of trying. It is, in fact, that they are trying to do too much. It is guys who feel that pressure, who feel that responsibility, who want to do more, who are often causing you the biggest problems. You can be aggressive. You can be desperate. You can be hungry. All of those traits generally do you pretty well in the realm of professional sports. But the Oilers' lack of structure, the Oilers' lack of cohesiveness is yielding god-awful results. This is a team that is paying 3 players $40 million, almost $40 million, I should say. But when you throw Nurse in there, they're paying 4 guys north of $40 million. This is an over-leveraged hockey team for right now. This is not, well, we'll see what Savoy are, what Howard is. No. This is a team that is expected to win right now. And right now, all of the decision-making is off because you need to have the self-discipline to say, this is not going to get good offense. And there is a difference. You saw the Oilers do this a little bit in the second period where they started to shoot for rebounds. They recognized the Sabres are playing a guy who has almost no NHL experience. Let's test him. Let's make him move. Let's try and make his life difficult. And then they got down by multiple goals and they fell back into their old habits. We're going off the rush. We're trying to create 2-on-1s, 3s-on-2s. And we don't have a great chance of converting them because they're not dangerous, because we're not getting in tight to the net. And look, Buffalo's got good individual players. Dahlin, Power, Byram, those are all pretty solid guys. Matthias Samuelsson, pretty solid hockey player. Those guys have long reaches. They are able to take away lanes. When those shooting lanes are not there, when the passing lanes are not there, the Oilers need to put their hard hats on, work the cycle, and try and find better chances because the way they're playing right now is not good enough to win in this league against Buffalo. And if you can't win against Buffalo playing this way, who can you beat playing this way? That will do it for our second segment on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why straight up. The Oilers can't keep playing like this if they want to win the Stanley Cup this year. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started. You connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by licensed doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter to you. Visit rugiet.com/locked-on, and you'll get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/locked-on-NHL. And don't forget to use our code LOCKEDONNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Thank you so much to everyone that is making Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. Locked On Oilers, your team every day. And friends, listeners, the occasional Florida Panthers fans who watch on YouTube and leave nasty comments. It's not looking too good out there. I'm just going to be blunt. The great Yogi Berra, and it's my favorite phrase, maybe in the history of the English language, it's getting late early out there. Now, to some, that sounds like fortune cookie wisdom. To those of us in the sports world who understand the ebbs and flows of a season, you can dig a hole too deep. And the Oilers have tested the limits of that each of the last 2 years. And I'm not advocating for a coaching change. I do think a coaching change is on the table, say January or so, if the Oilers continue to be this middling of a team, especially offensively. But what the Oilers are doing right now is bordering on hockey mispractice. So I have some stats for you here. Coming into tonight, the Oilers have been the only periods the Oilers have outscored opponents are the first period and overtime. In the first period this year, coming into tonight, they had outscored opponents 13-12. In the second period, they have trailed 25-30. In the third period, they have lost 19-24. And that tells you, and that should be an indicator, because you have heard people say they're a slow starting team, but as the game goes along, they get better. That is a score impacts phenomena. Because the Oilers are trailing after one, they typically are going to have a majority of the possession in the second and third periods because they are chasing the game, because they are trying to get back in the game, because they throw Connor and Leon together. Now they can throw Connor, Leon, and Hyman together, and hell, Chris Knobloch put Connor, Leon, and Hyman together with about 5 minutes to go in the second period, and those guys couldn't come up with one goal in 25 minutes. And it's not their fault alone. I am not here to point the finger to blame. That's not the point. I am saying that Chris Knobloch's trump card, I am playing the best three forwards I have together with Ekholm and Bouchard, and they are going to get me back in this game. Didn't work against Buffalo. Next one. In Connor McDavid's 5-on-5 minutes with Leon Draisaitl, 60% of the scoring chances, 65% of the shots on goal, 62% of the goals, 62% of the expected goals, 61% of the high danger chances. Without Leon Draisaitl, McDavid has 51% of the scoring chances, 48% of the shots on goal, 40% of the goals, 50% of the expected goals, 47% of the high danger chances. Right now, the Oilers are actively losing Connor McDavid's minutes when he is not playing with Leon. And this is not just shooting luck. This is not just goaltending. 868 goaltending with McDavid without Draisaitl, it's bad. Yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts. The fact that they are under 50% of just shots on goal, not even high danger now, but under 50% of the shots on goal in McDavid's minutes coming into tonight tells you they are not operating as constructed. In a vacuum, if you put Connor out there against anyone in any situation, he is supposed to dominate. That is the best hockey player in the world. And when you look at his numbers with Leon, his season totals, they're relatively fine. But for example, last year, 60% of the scoring chances, 60% of the shots on goal, 55% of the goals, 60% of the expected goals. Of course, a good chunk of those minutes at 5-on-5 do include Leon Draisaitl. But all of those percentages are about 5 to 7% better than what he is doing right now. And he's playing more with Leon so far this year than he did last year on a rate basis. Then, pivoting from Connor, the Oilers have been outscored 12-16 at 5-on-5 when Darnell Nurse is on the ice. They had been outscored 14-22 in all situations. You add this all up, You are not winning McDavid's minutes when you don't play him with Draisaitl, which means we have to load them up, which makes the rest of your lineup less effective because you have to load up Bouchard and Ekholm with them. So the rest of the defenders, Nurse is having a really rough go of it, have to try and help tilt the ice for your Adam Henriques, your Matthew Savoys, your Vasily Podkolzins. And this is the danger of loading up the line. We talked about this what felt like the entire month of July. The Oilers lost the Connor McDavid minutes in the Stanley Cup final last year, and that's why they lost the final. You could say what you want about the goaltending, the defense, the depth scoring. The Oilers as a team are built on the conceit that no matter what, when McDavid is out there, they are going to win those minutes. And if he needs to play with Draisaitl and Bouchard to get those results, that's not going to work. And I don't think there's anything notably different about McDavid this year. I think he might be taking the puck to the net at slightly a lower rate, but being that it is early, I am inclined to believe there are some feeling out things. I am inclined to believe the lack of Hyman through the first 20 games, the lack of consistent line mates is doing something there. I know the power play has been great, nothing to say about that, but if this team does not get that all-world production out of both McDavid and Draisaitl, and 30 to 40% of it is only when they overlap, they are going to have an extremely hard time this year scoring, and that's been the case so far. The defenders are not helping tilt the ice when the non-Bouchard minutes, and Bouchard's been a lot better the last 2 weeks or so, so I think the pitchforks and torches have gone away, but this is a team that is struggling to do what it's built to do. The depth that I was tepid on coming into the year has yet to really manifest. And that's in spite of Matthew Savoy looking pretty good in spurts, the hot start that has subsequently cooled off from Mangiapane, Henrique, Frederick, Philp, Tomashek, Howard, who's in the AHL now. There's just not a lot here beyond your big three. And it's already a lot for those guys when everything's going right, the expectations. Now that basically nothing is going right, I don't think the expectations for McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard, Hyman, Ekholm for their big five, the expectations couldn't be any higher because nobody's going to point to the rest of this lineup and realistically expect them to do anything discernibly different on their own. Yeah, I'm going to expect Stuart Skinner to turn into Patrick Waugh. Okay. I'm going to expect Darnell Nurse to turn into Chris Pronger. Yeah. You got to be realistic. And right now, the Edmonton Oilers are playing pretty bad hockey, and they are entirely reliant on their big guns carrying them through the dark. And on the nights the big guns don't, they are losing and losing very bad. That will do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. Thank you so much to everyone that made Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. Locked On Oilers, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we've got your team covered every single day. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or over on YouTube. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave the show a 5-star review. Greatly appreciated. Helps the show chart. Be sure to check out Locked On NHL Game Night, where the guys are breaking down every game every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned in June. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's go Oilers.